So I'm going to start recording again, and I'm going to start streaming again. Okay, so we are back. Theoretically, I'm still so unused to this shit. Yeah, we're back. We're back. Okay, so welcome back to Adventure Hook: Dark Sun, Fire, and Sand. We've been spending most of our evening rejiggering all of our tech stream everything, this awful fucking system, which is Zoom and Twitch and everything that has to do with the modern era, and being a group of people who did not grow up with this bullshit for the most part. Okay, so having said that, I'm your host, Aaron Campbell. With us are four of the usual crew. We have had some change, some shakeup since last we played, which has been almost 2 months at this point. The holidays. I was traveling in England for Thought Bubble, and then I was going. I had a shit ton of cons to do. Traveling's over for a while, but in the meantime, Joe Millard is going on sabbatical, basically taking the leave from the game for a while. Not sure if and when he might return. And so I'm going to be taking over the stream. And we tried to figure some things out with the new functionality with Twitch, and it is not functional. So we're moving on, and we're just sticking to what we know, which is Zoom. And from there, something that we're going to try to do when we come back in the new year properly is a simultaneous stream between here and YouTube. So no matter what happens, all of our streams will be immediately available for review for all time on YouTube. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. And we may be adding a new player to the group. We shall see. But for now, I think what we were going to do for tonight is just a recap, because last time we played, two of our crew were not here. Marc and Joe Annabi were not here. So we're going to basically go back over some of what happened last time. One
thing happened in our absence?
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I'm going to do is Sirenscapes is a little distracting for me right now, so I'm going to adjust those settings. Okay. Alright, so as I was listening back over last session's game, there were a few important events that happened. One of them was a member of the Verdant Revival ended up basically showing up and being sort of center stage entertainment for the night. Ended up regaling the crowd at Fort Ianto with a story of what ostensibly is an alternative view of Athasian history that none of you have ever heard before. And that went on for some time. After this individual, Emerald was their name, told their story, everybody was placed into their seating arrangements for the final feast of the night. And from there, some intrigue started to transpire. It started to become somewhat apparent, or at least the other gladiators that were involved in the fight with the Braxit alongside Craucus are very suspicious that they were not meant to survive the gladiatorial combat, and that no matter what comes of this evening, they are meant to die before sunrise. And so you started to hatch a scheme to try to help them escape using some of the subterranean passages that exists in Fort Ianto that can take you out into these desert escape hatches, and then hopefully spirit them off into the sands of Athas, where they can ultimately survive. The one thing that was discussed was that there is an overseer who is the foreman for the obsidian works below the fort. So, if we back up real quick, just to give an overview of kind of the global view of everything that's happened recently. You all have had a beef against House Ianto for some time. You got involved in the auctioning of the Faro fruit, this very rare type of fruit that exists in Athas. You auctioned off the very first specimen of the year, which is sort of a coveted position to be in. That ended up going to House Ianto. You thought, great, we now have our opportunity to get rid of Damezo Ianto, the piece of shit who oversees House Ianto, son of Strabo Ianto, but ostensibly the figurehead at this point. You poisoned the fruit before it ever exchanged hands, and you knew that the second that Damezo eats the fruit, which he plans to do this night at this festival that he is this banquet that he has put together, that his fate will be sealed. However, when you finally you were invited to come to the banquet. When you got here, you suddenly realized that House Ianto has all of these plans for you. They've looked into your past. They're intrigued by you. They see you as someone who can help advance their interest. Other things that you've learned in the meantime is that the Veiled Alliance also wants you to create some kind of connection with the members of House Ianto, because they have some kind of special dispensation with the Sorcerer King Kalek of Tyr. And if you can get close to them, theoretically, you can get close to the Sorcerer King during the upcoming Games of the High Sun. This threw a big monkey wrench into your plan, and now you're uncertain exactly how to proceed. Do you kill Damezo? Do you let him die? Do you prevent this from happening? And then, of course, with Damezo's plans, he has become well aware that your efforts to destroy the silk trade that his family oversees in the northern Badlands has been successful. He does not yet know your connection to the events at his center of operations with the silk trade, but he wants you to go on an expeditionary mission to see what became of the Yuan-Ti and the silk trade itself. So whether or not he really has any suspicion is unknown to you, but he definitely wants to engage your services and bring you into the fold for some reason. So all of this has created a bit of a quandary for the group of you. You know, which direction do you ultimately go? In addition, when you arrived at Fort Ianto, Craucus was put in with teamed up with a group of gladiators whose sole purpose was to put on an exhibition bout, but that was far from an exhibition bout. They ended up fighting this creature known as a Braxit, which is like a 30-foot tall monstrosity of the desert. You triumphed, but it seems you triumphed too well, because it definitely appears that House Ianto was not happy that everyone survived, especially the gladiators who were paired up with Craucus, who were members of the staff at House Ianto. They included a couple dwarves. There was a Yuan-ti, and one other individual I can't remember off the top of my head.
Beastmaster.
Beastmaster, yeah, okay. And the Yuan-ti was the one who ended up getting the boon for the night, which was theoretically a magic longsword of actual steel. Yeah, it was, or at least a sword made of steel. Whether it was magic or not is still yet to be determined, but it did seem as though that it was a very significant weapon. So, as a result, there's been a lot of hush-hush talk about the idea that this was not the way that things were supposed to go down. The gladiators have been shadowed by guards of House Ianto ever since you completed your match. And one of the dwarves, Vryn, confided with Craucus. Yeah, Vryn confided with Craucus that he does believe that they are not meant to survive the night, and whatever can be done to help them escape. They know where the entrances into the subterranean chambers are, where there are obsidian works being done. And of course, all of that has some weird connection to the High Games and Cailleach themselves. It's come to light that House Ianto has been providing obsidian orbs to Cailleach, both orbs crafted on site and orbs that come from further afield. And these orbs that come from further afield seemingly have special properties to them. This is all information that you couldn't get much more out of any of the people. So another theoretical reason why it would behoove you to try to infiltrate the family and see what else you can learn. At this point, it does seem as though the Clutch has decided that they do need to somehow prevent Damezo from being poisoned. Though there was also the suspicion.
We don't actually have to worry about it, because as we also know, we eavesdropped on Damezo and that elf talking about his transformation into a Yuan-ti, and told him they already know the thing is poisoned. They basically said they already knew.
Yeah.
So and there's you don't need to worry. Yuan-ti or basically whatever you are now, a pureblood or whatever you are now, you don't need to worry. You're immune to poison. At worst, it would make you sick for a day or something like that. Told him, right? So even if he eats it, he's not gonna die. But in theory, he might want the gladiators to eat it.
Yes.
Wow.
Right?
What the fuck?
Yeah, theoretically, he was the suspicion that arose that I think Vryn brought up was that he suspects that Damezo is going to share the Faro fruit with the gladiators.
So now
knowing that it will kill them.
Well, okay, it won't kill Yeely.
Won't kill her because she's immune to poison.
And in theory, Craucus could survive it. He'd probably make his con save.
Yeah, Craucus theoretically could overcome it, but he would also be a reasonable casualty if he did die.
Option is, I think we had been discussing, and we can still do it through Metaconcert, the idea that what if we employed the gladiators, right? Took them into House Dorada, right? So now they're on our payroll with the idea that, don't worry, your elf dude will be able to get rid of them when we're out on your mission to go find out what happened to your silk trade, which we know what happened, but to them, he doesn't know that we know, right? So we're going to play dumb. All right, we're going to go find out whatever you want. We'll take care of these goings while we're out there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And then we use all the gladiators to take out the fucking elf.
Yeah.
Instead, right? That's, to me, that's what Ma'ak would suggest. Let's do it. Let's use the resources that he has, make him think that we're his friend, and instead we become his foe. right? Or whatever, and he still will think we're friends.
Yeah, yeah. So those were kind of the machination.
Becoming a reptile?
What's that?
Wasn't Damezo becoming a reptile too?
Yeah, he's becoming one of them.
Yeah. I mean, like there were areas. I think there was something where like you could see like areas where he had like scratching his arm, and he had like leather bracers and stuff that were covering up weird patches of his skin. Yeah.
So, and then the other, like, at worst case, right? He's like, no, all of you motherfuckers, you all eat the Faro fruit. Well, then Desi, then you can be like, no, it's fucking poisoned. I have this wild talent, right? Or whatever. You may not want to tell him that you can do that if we don't have to reveal. But in theory, that's a way out of us having to actually fucking eat poisoned fruit in front of everybody.
Yeah. Part of it was also that Vryn was asking Craucus to create a diversion at some point before the Faro fruit was going to be shared so that they could make their escape.
But I guess if the idea is if we can convince Damezo that we'll take care of these gladiators for you, wink, wink, then he'll just let us walk out of the
We don't know that he wants them dead. Like, we don't...
Yeah, we don't, but we're not fucking stupid. And if you can be like, look, there's... I rep gladiators. It's what I do. That was the most one-sided fight. You're lucky my guy Crocus was in there. Or whatever, you know, like, that Brexit thing, that was like 10-1 odds, motherfucker. What were you trying to do? You know?
Or just hire them and see if they'll...
More or less, I think, like...
I'm interested to see, like, if we hire him, if we try to hire them, what will he do? Will he try to please us, or will he try to kill
I think he needs us I think he needs us to back up the elf for some reason. So until he gets what he needs out of the elf, which probably is our tracking abilities, I would think, right? That's what he wants. We're from the waste. That's why he cared about where we came from. Because we know our way around out there, right?
Yeah.
Ma certainly does, right? I think that's what he wanted. Like, can you pick up the trail of, well, what we don't know, but we know is Garrow, the mole, right?
Uh-huh.
What happened to him, we don't know. He vanished into silt. That's something that's worth discovering before we leave this place. How is he able to do that? Because it wasn't what made him famous in the arena, so it's not a wild talent. It's something that he earned elsewhere. I would take it probably from the Yanti. They gave him something to be the Silt Spectre or whatever the fuck his, pen name is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is something that probably Damezo knows too.
Yeah. Now,
and if he wants us to track this guy, he might give that up.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I wanted to do was because Mark and Joe weren't here last time, I would like to reread Emerald's speech and story. So it will take it's a little long, so it's going to take a little, like, probably 10 minutes or so. I think it took me to get through this. So, but this is the story that you guys good to go with this. So backing up a little bit, before you were all ushered to your respective places in the feasting area, this is the story that this representative of the Verdant revival told the crowd. Which was a bit of a surprise to all, because you weren't aware that representatives of the Verdant revival had any connection with House Ianto. So, this particular individual, much like all other members of the Verdant revival, wearing just the simple sky blue halter and the emerald green sash around the waist, otherwise completely shaved, but with brilliant green eyes and dark bronze skin, half elf, standing well over 7 feet tall, stood upon one of the banqueting tables that has been placed out in the inner keep of Fort Ianto. Began by saying to the crowd that they had traveled far and wide, and in their early years had spent most of their life in the east, along the shores of the Silt Sea. And when they were traveling, there was a day that they were met by someone by the name of Catal. They don't tell you much about Catal, other than this. And this is the story that Emerald imparts. I met Catal in haunted Guistanal, amid the ruins and silt and shadows. He was a voice, a presence, a creature of the way whose will remains strong even though his body has faded. Who are you? I asked. Catal, he answered. Catal the Mover. He spoke, but his words were silent to my ears. My mind heard them loud and clear, however. Where may I send you? He asked. Have you come to visit Vakura, or Pelkunal, or splendid Lius? No, I said. I have not come to visit these places of the dead. I seek knowledge of the ancients. As you command, was all he answered, and suddenly my mind was flooded with images that were so fantastic they didn't seem real, but they were real, and I was drowning in their intensity. Where Guistanal should have been was an endless expanse of water. Rising out of this unbelievable sea was a city of growing rock, populated by halflings. These were not the feral creatures that roamed the forest ridge. These were civilized halflings. And they lived in a place that makes even the grand cities of Nibene and Ram seem like ramshackle villages. This is the Blue Age, Catal's mental voice informed me. It was a time when halflings were the masters of the world and nature itself bowed to their commands. The scenes shifted before me. The water receded, giving way to a ragged shore. Now the lay of the land looked more familiar, except where the sea of silt should have been, there was a sea of sparkling water. The sandy wastes were covered with thick forests, and the land looked like the forest ridge for as far as I could see. I recognized the walls of Guistanal, though they were new and solid, not broken and crumbling like the ones I passed through only hours before. The city was full of people, though not one of them was a halfling. I saw humans and elves and dwarves, along with a score of creatures I couldn't identify. Some were small, with brightly colored wings. Others looked like thin dwarves. There were so many, I couldn't begin to absorb all the details. This is the Green Age, after the rebirth, before the time of magic, the mover explained, though I barely understood the terms. This was the time I was born to, a time when the way was supreme. Time passed, and I watched the city grow and change. It stretched along the coast and expanded to the islands nestled among the rolling waves. Castles became keeps, keeps became fortresses, and stone towers reached higher and higher into the sky. And as I said before, when Emerald uses the term castle, none of you know what that word means. Soon magic joined the way, and the two sources of power worked together to turn Guistanol into a paradise. A new leader arose during this period. He was a giant with the head of some strange cat creature, and the people loved him. They built statues of this king and dedicated temples to his name. All the varied races lived within his domain. Guistanol was a city of harmony and happiness, of peace and tranquility like I have never dreamed of. Then the Ravager came. With an army of humans and a thirst for conquest, the Ravager attacked Guistanol and its giant king. I watched this fierce battle rage, trembling in terror at the power I witnessed. The giant king was a master of the way. That much was obvious. The Ravager commanded the way as well, but he also wielded sorcery. In the end, the Ravager claimed victory, slew the giant king, and declared himself Dragoth, sorcerer king of Guisanol. This was the start of the cleansing wars, Catal said. The sorcerer kings raised armies and marched to slaughter the races created during the rebirth. Guistanol's armies, led by Dragoth, ravaged the land. As more and more sorcery was used, more and more of the lush countryside withered and died. The races I couldn't identify were systematically wiped out as I watched the years roll by. The land became more desolate, but the war finally ended. So began the age of the Sorcerer Kings. The mover intoned. An age that still exists, but is rapidly coming to a close. This is the story of the ages of Athas as Catal, the mover, placed them in my mind. It is a confusing story, full of incredible events, but I believe it to be true. And that's where Emerald leaves off the story, bowed to the crowd, and everyone began to cheer. Emerald then stepped down, started moving through. People started coming up and asking them questions. You hear people in the crowd kind of whispering to each other. Have you ever heard this story? No, I've never heard this story. Some people saying it was hogwash, other people saying, wondering if there could be any veracity to it. But one way or the other, Emerald's story was deeply affecting to everyone. And it also came out that in 2 days there would be another such gathering, sermon, so to speak, of the Verdant Revival in the Noble Quarter in Tyr, and that all who wished to come were invited. Of course, it seems as though it's quite obvious that the majority of the people that are here probably live in the Noble Quarter. So, but yeah. So, and like I said, this is a story that none of you have ever heard about. Like, as far, like, really in terms of, like, the history of Athas, none of you have really ever heard a true history of the world prior to the Sorcerer Kings. As far as you know, the Sorcerer Kings just have always been. The seven Sorcerer Kings have ruled over the 7 cities for at least a millennia, and no one has ever heard of this Ravager, this idea that there was a 8th Sorcerer King. This is news to everyone. Yeah. So yeah. Very interesting. You know, you can take from it what you will. But then after that, then, you know, things moved on.
It would be interesting to have Sapphire join MetaConcert with us and share their memories of this communion with Catal, whoever that is. But Guisanol sounds. Do we know where that is? I mean, Rob knows, but based on this story, can we get a general? Do we know at least it's east of Dimidé, that kind of thing? Or
Well, I mean, yeah, just based on the way that Emerald was telling the story, you get a sense that this fabled Guistanol, if it exists, is on the eastern shores of the Silt Sea, beyond Nimine. Exactly where, though, they didn't really impart or elucidate on.
It's fine. I don't think we're in a hurry to want to go there, but maybe one day.
Yeah. There was some of the other kind of ad-lib stuff that I added in last time that's not in this, is that Emerald did say that the source of life in Athas lies in Guistanol, and that source has the power to restore Athas to one of the earlier ages, to the green and blue ages. And bring life back to the world.
And none of this. I felt like Geza had some knowledge of there being a time where Athos wasn't a desert waste, and he don't all exarchs have some knowledge of the green or blue ages?
Well, give me a history check on that, because I can't quite recall either, what you exactly know. I do think that...
we've encountered those concepts before.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of the Blue Age... I will say the idea of the Blue Age and the Green Age, I think for, especially for Ma'ak and...
Ma'ak definitely does.
Yeah,
that's
and...
part of his whole, past lives thing.
Yeah, and Geza...
I rolled a natural 20, which would be a modified 23.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a part of my motivation.
Okay, so then...
I felt like that was a part of my tutelage from...
Gotcha.
From my teacher.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then you definitely would have, this... You have a concept that... It's sort of what in our world would be the concept of the Golden Age. That Atlantean time. That time before. And so you certainly know about...
I wouldn't have known this, lineage.
No. You don't know any of that stuff, but you do... The Green Age and the Blue Age are concepts that you are very well aware of. But they've always been vague concepts. So what you know of the Blue Age is that the Blue Age was the first age of the world. And during the Blue Age, the entire planet... planet, you probably don't even have a concept of the planet, but all of Athas was covered in water.
To it, Athas as the world,
Yeah, the world, all of Athas was covered in water. And then the Blue Age gave way to the Green Age when the waters began to recede and expose the land. And that gave birth to the Green Age. And that was when there was this union between the seas, between these massive bodies of water, and then these land masses, like the tablelands. And this whole area of the tablelands where you live during the Green Age was covered in verdant forest. Right. As far as the eye could see, it was forests everywhere. And then... when the Sorcerer Kings came, they used their defiling magic to empower their spells, and they sucked the life out of the land and turned it, and so began the dawn of the Brown Age. And the Brown Age is what you all live in now, and that's where they have basically sucked almost all of the life out of Athas to empower their spells. And at this point, what is left of the green has retreated up into the highest elevations, into the Crescent Mountains, into the Ringing Mountains, anywhere where there is the highest elevations. That is the only regions where the green still exists. And if there's still any remnants of the blue, it only exists in like the most small pockets. Like there's the Dragon Bowl up north near Mach has that was a hunting ground for Mach's clutch, former clutch. Was the Dragon Bowl, and there's a great salt sea up there, but nothing lives in it.
It's like a lake, really.
Yeah, it's a lake.
Not much.
It's a large lake.
Yeah.
You know, like
Athas is huge.
yeah. I mean, if you stand on the shore of the lake, you can't see, to the horizon. I mean, you can see the rim of the cliffs beyond, but it's
cool.
it's just a dim shadow on the horizon.
And Geza would know because basically Nibene sits on a swamp, it's basically like a hot spring, like it's volcanic. So.
Yeah, Nibene has hot springs and caverns, and then to the south of Nibene there's the city of Golg, which is very, very humid and swampy. But Golg sits much higher up into the Crescent Mountains than Nibene does, because Nibene is kind of like on the city. Spur. Yeah. Golg is the greenest city of all the Tablelands. But outside that, I mean, you've never really heard it said that the Silt Sea used to be what was basically a massive body of water, as it's kind of termed in this story that Emerald has said. So the idea that you look out across the expanse, and I mean, granted, probably none of you have ever actually physically been to the shores of the Silt Sea. It's only been ever described to you. So it's hard to really kind of like picture in your mind this idea that you just have this like flat plane of like fine silt as far as the eye can see, that if you step into, you sink directly to the bottom and die. It's this place of horrors. You do know that there are things called silt skimmers, these vessels that have massive wheels that ply these secret pathways across the Silt Sea. But it's hard to really contemplate, like in picture, what that is. So that is your understanding of the blue, green, and brown age. Like I said, you've never heard of this Ravager, you've never heard of Guistanol, you've never heard that this place Guistanol is evidently the source of life in Athas. None of that.
Okay. It's definitely worth investigating, but probably another day.
Yeah.
We probably have more on our minds, or at least our characters do.
Yeah.
But if there is an opportunity to speak with Sapphire one-on-one, Mach would take it.
Yeah.
Is Sapphire traveling with Emerald? Are they both here?
Or sorry, not Sapphire, Emerald. I'm sorry. Sapphire should still be back in Tyr, although at dawn Ma'ak will check in, as he does every morning.
Yeah. So I mean,
and what was the detail about Guistanol? It was located where?
It's like east of Nibene along the shores of the Silt Sea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, theoretically, this Emerald person has actually been there, so they know exactly where it is.
Or could share memories of what it is.
Yeah, they can show us in their mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, having said that, because I didn't really prepare, and this is kind of just a recap, are there any questions that any of you have, just in terms of like stuff that you're like hazy memory on or need clarification about, so that when next we meet, we can hit the ground running?
I don't have a clear forward momentum drive as far as what Geza wants to do, and that part of that is because I wasn't here for the last session, so I'm still kind of wrapping my mind around some of these new things. But if you guys have a a direction that we're heading, then
The
Joseph.
one thing that I was clear about last time was that when all was said and done and you finally sat down to your respective places at the banqueting tables, there was still going to be about another hour of just like drink and appetizers before the feast proper began. So you still had quite a bit of time left to mingle.
Can we pick up a conversation then?
Yeah, you can pick up a conversation.
All right. Well, I think Ma'ak would go to Desi on this one. All right. So
Maybe right back.
there's the question of what to do with these gladiators. Do you want to extend them a job so that they join our house and are technically under our protection? I don't think Damezo would move against them if they were in our employ, at least not directly. What makes sense is that you would let him think, like, one way or another, yeah, I'll get rid of them for you, if that's what you kind of, approach. But
were they granted their freedom as a result of surviving the game?
technically, yes. Technically, but I don't think he's going to let them just waltz out the front door. However, if they're in our entourage, you might think twice about it.
Well, and if you want to extend gratitude to our host before offering them the job, quote unquote, you could ask him, like, do you mind if I hire these guys on? I know that they were working under your supervision previously, but I'd like to hire them if you don't have a problem with it, since I'm going to be working with you. It could be a little...
Yeah, but what if he says
Like
no?
your life is imitating your art, Joe.
I know. Yeah.
Didn't we just have that conversation?
Inside baseball, it doesn't matter. Don't worry. Mark's talking about my real life job.
I'm all for having a gang of gladiators be with us. That would be fun.
Right, but
I
if
mean-
you ask him, like, do you mind if I hire them, then he will have to opine.
I mean, unless he says no, like, I set them free, don't touch them, and then it's like easier to ask for forgiveness than permission with this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
You know?
I would go for that.
We also, like, while we want to endear ourselves to this guy, we also don't want to lick his boots. Like, we want to make him think that he has to work to keep us happy, right? Desi and her crew are way too valuable to just be like your fucking lapdogs, you know? So, like, he has to think he has to tread a little careful with us. So we're not asking permission. We saw their worth. We hired them. Fuck you.
Yeah, I
You
suppose
know?
that's a good approach as well. Like,
know,
thank
I
you
mean, but
for
that's why I
setting
want to
free
check in
these
with you guys.
wonderful fighters. I've brought them onto my entourage because I think they'll do me well in the pits.
Yeah, right? I mean, we got a big fight coming up, don't we? You know, kind of thing. So, anyway, Desi, what do you think?
I really don't care about them. I really don't care if they die or not. The only reason I would consider saving them is because you all asked me to. Like,
I mean, Mark doesn't
to make
care
you
about
happy.
them. No. Mark doesn't care about them. They're not in her clutch. They made Ma'a with Crocus, but that was one fight. What I care about is the fact that the two dwarves have firsthand knowledge of the Obsidian operation, which is going to be key for us understanding what the fuck Kalik is up to and why Damezo has this in with him. We don't understand that yet, and they may have the clue. Now, originally, there was this whole plan of, like, Ma'ak was looking for a smooth, broken shard out in the, wastes that he could do his, like, psychometry with it. But these guys have been there. They could just share their memories, way easier than, like, just, gleaning some piece out of it. So,
So
like,
I still
they're more
don't
valuable.
care if they live or die. But to answer the question that was posed to me, my inclination is to approach Damezo with to tread uncarefully. Like, my inclination would be to just walk up to him and be like, "Hey, you know those gladiators? We hired them. They're coming with us." Like,
Great, go
that's
for
how I
it.
approach.
Well, that's what I just, that we're all on the same page about our attitude towards it, or whatever.
And I wasn't here, so did you converse much with them post?
No, we haven't talked to them at all. Crowcus was going to offer them the job. We figured. He saved their lives. What were they going to do? Say no? You know, but in theory, they're all going to want to. I mean, we don't even Umbrella probably hasn't been invented on Athas, right? But like in theory, they want to be under our protection, right? So it makes sense for them to join us, at least temporarily.
Well,
especially the Yanti is the other one that I want to live because she's got firsthand information of Yanti's stuff, right? There's all kinds of questions.
She would stab us in the back.
Oh, most likely, but again, she may want to walk out of there and see us as a way to do it. That's what we can offer. In theory,
didn't they say to someone that they were worried that they were meant to die or something? Wasn't there some conversation on some level with someone? Who did they talk to? Who did they say that to?
The dwarf, one of the dwarves said that to Crowcus, but I mean, I said that in character when I was playing her, because like that was clear. Like this was a setup to be killed. Only because Crowcus was there did they win that fight. Otherwise, they'd all be paced. Totally.
And did Crowcus care?
I don't know if he.
Crowcus cared.
Together.
I mean, Crowcus.
Cared that they lived. Yeah.
Crowcus certainly cares about them now as gladiatorial companions, and he was ready to create a big diversion that would allow them to try to escape through the passageways underneath Fort Ianto into the desert.
Yeah, I mean,
it was just incumbent upon you guys to be copacetic with that, and then also figure out how you can you were also discussing like what's the best way to approach this whole poison debacle. Like,
and that we found out from who?
We overheard their conversation. Like, we overheard a conversation in which they made clear that they knew that the fruit was poisoned, and that's where we also saw that Damezo was turning into a lizard.
But you still, you obviously, like, what you were talking about last time was that you obviously can't let on that you know that. So, like, they're going to feign, Damezo, it still seems like, is going to feign taking a bite of it. So it was like, how do you guys impose yourself into that, where like you come out the heroes, like, oh, we're the ones that saved Damezo's life, and that was going to be to use Desi's talent as like a poison detector.
Right.
If you chose to reveal yourself as able to do that.
I think
it's a super valuable skill.
Right? We scrapped that when we realized that
he doesn't know yet. We didn't tell him.
No. Like when I was listening through the last when I was listening through the last episode, like after Emerald, because you overheard that conversation before Emerald's story. After Emerald's story, you were still talking about, okay, how do we, like, Desi, you were saying, I can still, like, basically jump out and say, don't eat that. I have a wild talent that allows me to detect poison, and that is fucking poison. Don't eat that. So like that, and that was like one of the last like iterations of that plan.
But after we learned that he knows that it's poison, surely we scrapped that plan.
Well, but we don't know that he knows that it's poison.
He doesn't know that you know that you know that he knows that they know that you know.
It was, I mean, okay, here's the thing. If he eats it and it's poison, right, and he doesn't die, well, good on him. But if we eat it and we don't die, that's weird, because it should kill us.
Why would we eat it?
Well, we would eat it if he offered it to us and we're honored guests.
Well, no, if he offered it to us, that's good.
Do we actually think he's going to offer it to us?
If he offers it to us,
wants to kill our gladiators, he might.
That's the circumstance where you do reveal, like, you're like, obviously, I'm the queen of this thing, so I will take the first bite, and then you're like, but I won't because you're trying to poison me.
Yeah, and what's that about? You know, or whatever. Why would you poison us? Because he knows. He knows that it's poisoned. He didn't do it, but he knows. He still offered it to us. So, like, he might insist that, you know, the gladiators, like, Craucus is the only one you would, like, obviously Craucus is the MVP of that fight, right? So go Craucus. And we might say, no, Yuli's the MVP of the fight. She's the one who pulled the sword. She's immune to the poison. She might bite it.
This could actually be a good chance for somebody to give me a protocol. Like, there's not a protocol skill, but I think it would be a history check for protocol. Which I think, Desi, you should give that to me.
Sure. I just don't think he's going to offer it to us if he wants us to do this thing for him.
Yeah, maybe not, but...
But he might offer it to the gladiators that we've employed, and at which point it's fine, because that's your right to say, well, as the leader of this house, I think I deserve the first taste. And then you just cut that
Or we would
shit
insist that whoever gets it actually offers it to you as the leader of the house, that kind of thing. We'll have a meta concert. We can,
like, Craucus would be like, a tribute to Desi. Obviously, we wouldn't be here without Desi.
Yeah.
You know, it's a subterfuge.
My God, you talk just like him.
What was your protocol history check?
I got an 11.
I got an 8.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't really know. Yeah, well, I mean, like, I guess you all can roll, but really, like, Desi's the one who has the most.
Marc's gonna fail this. I'm just gonna tell you, he failed.
Yeah.
I don't
so
have D&D
none of you have really ever experienced anything like this particularly. So it's speculation at this point as to what Damezo would do.
Has Craucus not been in a situation like this where there's a granting of boon for the win or anything?
Well, I mean, even if he had, it was in Nibene, and customs can be completely different city to city.
Okay.
So, like, he's just not.
Actually, Ma'ak rolled an 18.
Oh, shit. Yeah, well.
That's not bad.
Man, yeah, I don't know. Ma'ak. I think that Ma'ak would probably have to have
He has
disadvantage on this.
or something. It's fine.
Yeah.
He wouldn't know this.
Yeah. So yeah, there's not much else. Like, right now, it's all speculation, like I said, as to what Damezo would do.
Even if it's unusual, inserting yourself as a house leader is not unusual. Even if in this circumstance it is, throwing your weight around as a boss is a thing that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
If need be, just do that. And if not need
I think
be, maybe
we were talking about having Craucus, like, feign an illness so he wouldn't be there, so he couldn't be off the fruit. Does that ring any bells?
I think that's overly complicated when he can just be like, I never eat before Desi, or something. You know, like, deferring to the leader is something that only has to be done if it comes up.
As your aide-de-camp, we can even insist on that kind of... You don't even have to speak up. We'll speak up for you.
Yeah, like, I could do it.
Yeah.
Be like, Craucus, you know that Desi eats first, or something like that.
She is first in clutch, Craucus. You know,
oh yeah, there's another thing. Yeah, Ma'ak literally has imposed that before. Not as a ruse. He has made sure that you got the best cut of meat.
Yep, that's true. That makes total sense. Ma'ak, actually, this is Rob. Ma'ak would already be thinking that, right? Yeah, well, of course she would get it. That would be it would be strange if she wasn't offered the best.
I feel like that's a situation we'd prefer to avoid.
I think all that I mean, I think, like, the question that needs to be answered is, when it comes time and that Faro fruit starts getting presented, are you going to call it out or are you going to wait? Because Damezo could eat it first. Like, he could give it to Craucus first. He could give it to the Yanti first. He could give it to a host of different people first. But at what point in that chain of custody are you going to make your move?
I think
If any.
Clutch.
Yeah, if it's one of the clutch, then we have to.
Otherwise, yeah, too bad. So sad.
If it's one of the clutch, then we do the ruse. And if it's not one of the clutch, then somebody dies.
And you let the poison be
shouldn't
discovered that
Strabo-
way?
Wouldn't Strabo get the first piece? Right? He's not immune.
Right.
Well, it's
That almost
uncertain.
feels like the better ploy.
Well,
Whoever gets offered to is say, why is he not first?
Yeah.
I mean, keep.
Let's first look
Oh,
once.
shit. That's actually a good point.
And it could be presented again as Ma'ak not knowing. Like, just be like, shouldn't first and clutch have it? Is Strabo not the one who gets the best
Right,
fight?
because isn't
Your
that
customs are
totally
very
embarrassing?
strange.
Right. Isn't he the boss? Are you boss? I thought he was boss.
And just be like, Damezo, this is very strange. This is not how the Thri-Kreen would do this. You know, whatever. Just
sure.
speaking out of turn.
I'll get in the way. I don't mind. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
All
and
of it is just
ultimately,
about-
like, even down to, it could come down to just a sleight of hand, like, sorry, Randle. You know, whatever.
There's
right?
no. If the fruit is handed to me, I won't even sleight of hand it. Like, I'm telling you, if they ask
Yeah.
me to eat it, I need you to jump in, Desi.
Yeah. I guess the one thing that, like, I guess you're all anticipating is that Damezo is well aware that the fruit is poisoned, and so whoever eats first
He's
is
intending
for a reason.
to kill.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So-
why I kind of want to see what he'll do without any of our.
Right.
Oh,
We
yeah,
should-
yeah, no,
Just
these are
let's
backup
see
plans.
what.
Yeah, this is just like we should have a plan.
Right.
In
Or
case.
if it goes our way, or you know, whatever.
In
Like,
theory,
we have
he may
op-
not offer it to us at all.
which is fine.
Right? Which would be fine. That'd be great. Exactly. But in theory, he may want to poison one or more of his enemies and use this as the opportunity to do it, because who's going to pass up a Faro fruit? It's like, hey, you want this caviar or whatever? I don't know.
Okay,
Whatever
well, with all that, with
I guess the game plan is like just to watch and like keep the meta conflict going, and if anybody like cries objection, then I intervene.
Yeah,
like
no, that's
just see
fine.
who
Well,
gets it in
either
order.
you intervene or Ma'ak intervenes with a culturally insensitive interruption.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Ma'ak being culturally insensitive. It's that
Yeah.
I do too.
It's either that or it's you being the boss lady calling how it is. Like, I'm the one that eats
Or
it.
you're more like, are you going to tell everyone you poisoned that, Damezo? What's your game? You know, whatever, right? Like you
Right.
can we hold all the cards. Not that's a bad metaphor. We use all these Earth metaphors, but you know, like basically we
have
know
insider
all the pieces.
you hold all the
We
bones.
hold all the marbles.
Aaron, how far does my wild talent reach? Like, if somebody else do I have to hold the fruit to know that it's poisoned? See the fruit, sense the fruit.
Shit, that's a good.
I imagine
that's a
it's
good
a
question.
range
Hold on.
thing.
It's probably a range of
No more than 50 feet. It's probably.
I would
Yeah,
say
because
it's
if like that fruit goes to the other side of the room, and I'm like, hang on.
D&D sort of has long, medium, and short range abilities. It's like 120 feet is sort of your long range, 60 feet is sort of your mid range, and then like within 20 is your close. So like, I mean, something with poison would seem close, because otherwise it sense the whole room, right?
Well, that's why if it's going to one of us, your intervention has to be, I
Me
want
first.
it first so that it can be brought to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just say, that's poison from across the room, then it's like, I did that.
I mean, worst case, you can still do that, but
But he could also offer it to his sister, who's not one of our.
If he offers it to his sister, I
Yeah.
am going to try...
I'll shed a crocodile tear for her.
No. I'm going to try to save her using my...
Culturally insensitive. We need cultural sensitivity.
No. I'm going to try to use magic to save her, to make it not go into her mouth, basically.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna like blow it onto the floor or something. Make it look like a
Yeah.
flub. I've got what is it, far hand or whatever, where I can like move 5 objects simultaneously. So I'm just gonna far hand that shit out of her grasp onto the floor or something.
You can't use it on anything that's quote unquote equipped. I think if you're eating something, it's equipped.
Oh, if it's in her hand?
Mm-hmm. Like you can't pull a dagger off someone's belt with it.
So if it's on the platter, I can just make it slip off the platter.
I would argue you could probably do it anyway. You know, it's just.
I mean, if it's on a platter, like you could do it. Like if it's being, if it's presented on a platter and it's being transitioned via that platter, then yes, you could knock it off. But as soon as somebody picks that up and holds it in their hand, then that would be, that would be a difficulty.
I assume they would present it on a platter. I can't imagine it being handed from one fingertip to another
golden box.
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Yeah. So if it's not in someone's hands, I can do something about it.
Cool.
Okay, hold on. I'm still trying to find this. I mean, I'm having to go back to second edition for this. So give me just a second to find Poison Sense. This is such a...
Are you looking in the Psionics handbook?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Because I thought it was Poison... Nope. Where is it? Poison Sense. I got it. Okie doke. Poison Sense. Area of effect. 1 yard radius?
Okay, 3 feet.
That
Says, this power enables the psionicist to detect the presence of poison and identify its location within 1 yard of his body.
unfortunately, Desi can't do it at all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Or his. Oh fuck! The second edition is so quaint. Or his presence if he is using clairvoyance or traveling astrally. Yeah. So the type of poison is not revealed, only its presence. Any poison, including animal venom, can be detected. So yeah, you will have to be within 3 feet of that Faro fruit in order for it to be plausible.
Which also makes sense why just sitting at the table you're not bing. That's poison, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, a very powerful ability, but that is a decent limitation upon it. So.
And I wasn't here last game, but the previous session was trying to set up that Geza was trying to be familiar with Damezo's cousin.
Kame?
The woman.
Kame?
Yeah. So that I could try to sit close enough to her to be within range to do forehand if I need to.
Okay.
60 feet. You should be all right.
Well, why don't we do this instead of having to like back up and like go through a whole thing? Just give me a. What kind of charisma check would you like to do? Persuasion, deception, or intimidation?
No, I mean, I guess persuasion. Really, I mean, I don't know. I was just doing stuff to make her life easier and then checking in about how did that work out.
So persuasion.
Yeah, it's persuasion.
Yeah, we'll just do a persuasion check.
Do I get advantage because I've been doing a lot of labor for her on this day?
I'll say that you. Yeah, I'll give it to you since you're doing a somewhat of a long game on this. I'll give you advantage on that.
Well, I rolled a nat 20.
Okay.
On the first roll, so I don't need a second roll.
Okay. No, you've actually managed to establish quite a rapport with her during this time. She has seen your dedication to the kitchen staff, like your willingness to like just kind of come in as a guest and take up that role. Like basically as an impromptu Strigil, because if you recall, they there were certain spices that they did not have in stock that they were supposed to have in stock, and so they were desperate because they were convinced that they were going to be serving bland food, and then you were able to use your abilities to season their food.
Repeatedly falsifying flavor onto the wrong spice to keep a spell going long enough to marinate this meat over the course of the evening's events.
Yeah.
It's a long con on multiple levels.
Yeah.
Cooking con.
Cooking con. So you're able to do that, and that's something that she particularly appreciated, because you do start to realize that Kame is unlike the other members of this family. She does care about the people who work for Ianto. She is not particularly keen on her brother's machinations, and has no love for her father, Strabo. So, and obviously, even though she doesn't say it, it becomes quite clear to you that she, if she were in charge of House Ianto, would probably run things quite differently.
Yeah, but if she was in charge, we wouldn't be. So she might have to go.
Okay. We can just have a friend in charge. I don't want to be responsible for anything other than the death of Uni.
I mean, granted, you don't get any sense from her either. Well, actually, give me an insight check, since you spent so much time with her. And I'll give you advantage on that insight check as well.
Okay. So it's either, it's a 16.
16? You also don't get much from her that suggests that she wants to be in charge of this fucking family. You actually get a sense that she would rather wash her hands of this affair altogether and just be her own person.
Would she join the verdant revival and give it all up?
Actually, to be honest, after that story, I would reflect on it with her, because all night long I'm trying to be next to her and have a thing to talk about with her. I'm going to talk about that with her.
Nice, good move.
I mean, without actually having the conversation. Long story short, you also get a sense that she's pretty jaded, and these stories of golden ages and some return to some equitable future, whatever, or moving towards some equitable future, she thinks is a fool's errand, and really people should just be concerned about themselves and what they can do locally, in terms of what they can do for themselves and those immediately around them.
Yeah, their immediate community.
Yeah, immediate community. But this idea that you can actually seismically change Athas, she thinks is bullshit.
I will just counter that with more hopeful perspectives, and saying that, every drop in that bucket of local kindness adds up to an ocean that used to take up the Silt Sea, basically. If everyone is concerned with themselves and their community, then suddenly the world is a good place.
Well, she certainly thinks that.
I tell her also, I've heard some of these stories, not with as much detail, but I as far as I believe, the world did come from what he said it did, and can be returned to it, but only through our efforts collectively.
Yeah, I mean, you get the sense that she's fairly nihilistic about that, and has struggled so much in her life that she's tired of hearing people's platitudes.
Well, I'm not platituding. I'm going to circle it back to the meal we're about to have only being worth eating because of the kindness of a stranger. And I'll ask her if she needs a refresh on her drink as I step away to leave her lingering on that.
Yeah. No.
Are you enjoying the basting of this meat while I'm at it, too?
Yeah, I'm like, I basted the shit out of your meat all night, and it's making your life easier today.
Yeah.
And that's just an instant reminder of the grander picture that I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, she says basically she lets you know that you're something unique, and if you don't have an ulterior motive behind this, she'll be very surprised. But ulterior motive or not, I mean, feel free to milk her husband, her brother, for all he's worth. She could care less. But she's very thankful that you have made her life easier today.
And regardless of business dealings, my motives are always that of being in service to returning Athas to a place of life. I'm an exarch. This is what I do.
Yeah. Well, she says that's admirable. She's just tired.
I get it. That's all.
Yeah. So, I mean, other than that, I mean, you know, she's happy to have your company. She enjoys it quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't ever want to. I would never have made it.
Yeah.
Didactic or shitty.
No. She's also
add some light and levity and an alternate perspective to.
She's also, but also she's unique in the sense that she's never asked you like, what are you? Where are you from? She's treated. She's one of the few individuals who's actually treated you like. What's that?
But where are you really from?
Yeah. Where are you really from? Yeah, no. She actually has not. She's not fixated on your Aarakocracy. She's not fixated on the fact that you're not a vulture Aarakocra, that you're a hawk, you're a silverhawk, which is utterly unique in this region. She's treated you as if you are absolutely no different from any of the other nobles around you. So that's sort of, I mean, take that as you will.
Mm-hmm. She's flirting with me. Got it.
She does not seem to be coming onto you. There does seem to be a deep sadness within her, however.
Yeah.
There is a moment where I will say that there is a moment after this when after you had to go back up and go into the kitchen to do some more basting. You come back out and you can see her, like they're like palm trees and stuff kind of scattered around the courtyard of Fort Ianto, and she has a amphora of wine in her hand, and she's walking around and she's pouring wine into the base of each of these palm trees.
Huh. Is that good for trees?
Give me an Arcana check.
It's not good, Jim. 6.
You have no idea. You've never seen anybody do this before.
Sure it's wine and not water?
It's red. Whatever's coming out of that amphora is red.
I don't know. I mean,
Could it be blood? Blood would be a good fertilizer.
No, it totally makes sense.
in meta concert, I'll definitely ask, like, why would she do that? Anyone?
Women, am I right?
Can one of us make an Arcana check?
Yeah.
Or do you have it in your ancestral knowledge?
If I fail this Arcana check, I can spend a psi point and re-roll it at advantage.
Yeah, you could do that.
I roll a 9, so I probably fail.
Arcana is on the like skills list under animal handling.
So let's wait to see if anybody else gets it before I consider spending a point.
I rolled an 11, which means I could probably
I rolled a 17.
shit a plausible answer.
Char got a 17. Char got a 17.
Char got 17?
Yeah, he's a historian. That's right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, it's actually something that you don't pay too much attention to, Char, because you do it in Cled.
Marinating my meat.
No, there are a few palms that grow in Cled, and you know, on the weekends or during feasts, it's common to pour some out for the djinn, because the djinn, it is believed, will take refuge in the shade of palms and find their home there.
So is it gin we're spilling for the gin?
Pouring them out for her own homies.
Yeah. It's just it's a way of like you pour wine for the djinn. It's a way to placate them so that they it'll keep them docile, so that they don't get any wild thoughts to like stir up shit when the rest of you are trying to have fun. What's that?
Last thing you would want is a drunk gin meant to be unstable, godlike character.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's whether it's a
wheel here, right? Gin exists.
Oh yeah, gin do exist. Yeah, it's. I mean, this particular tradition is wrapped up definitely in folklore. So whether there's truth to the fact that jinn actually occupy the shade of every fucking palm tree that exists in Athas is up for debate. But it is a superstition, and it is well known that oftentimes jinn, as the story goes, the jinn come from the sun. Like, they come from the dark sun. And they were driven from the dark sun because the heat became too much even for them. And so they were driven out onto the surface of Athas. And they and they're now here on Athas, and they despise the fact that they have to be here. They despise having to look up at that horrible sun that drove them from their home. And so they seek shade where they can. And oftentimes it is believed that that is in the comfort of the palm tree, the cool comfort of the palm. And so just to keep them, appeased, it's nice every once in a while, especially during festivals, to give them some of your bounty. And so you pour the wine into the base of the palm, just to make sure that they don't get any ideas and decide to manifest themselves and kill everyone.
Or is that like a quaint superstition, or like a kindness, or
it's a bunch of that. I mean, like most folklore is all wrapped up in that. It's like mix of superstition. It's a kindness. It's about just making sure. We're just making sure, like just in case. So who knows?
It's like meat leaving milk out for the fairies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thing, right? So they don't, mess with the larder or annoy the cows or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, granted, you guys are going to have to talk to Char to get that story.
No, I did that all through mental.
Oh, okay.
Concert.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This
Just super convenient meta concert.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine that like Char's response would have been like, "Yeah, it's for the gin." Matter of fact, like, yeah, and like,
no, she's just doing the chores.
Just doing the chores.
Seems an awful waste.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell though. However, give me an insight check. With on her Geza.
Yeah. Oh wait, not with advantage, just regular.
Yeah.
20.
20. Oh shit. There is one particular tree, palm tree, where she pours the rest of the amphora out, and everywhere all the other palms that she poured wine to was a very small amount. It was just a bit of a drizzle, but this one tree that she stopped at, she poured almost the entire like remnants. Like it was probably about at least 1/3 of the amphora was poured into this one tree. And when you observed her doing it, you could tell there was intense, like there was this real sense of sadness as she poured the wine out into this one particular tree.
Interesting. Wasn't was Dickless Jin Bap? Did we learn? Yeah, the imposter.
Maybe. I mean, we were using the word doppelganger, but
Right, but that was obviously like fakey shit. It's been so long, but I feel like we learned like a deeper truth.
Remember the story that was told to you at the symposium of Narissa?
Yeah, what was that?
About the story of the djinn?
I do remember that we were told a story about a djinn, but I do not remember the contents of that story.
Do you recall in that story what they used to control djinn?
I do not.
Obsidian.
Oh, was it obsidian?
Bingo.
So...
Because
maybe...
if you recall, the obsidian represents the heat of the sun, which they abhor.
And maybe she was never in a... Maybe she never really cared about Baprasad, but she cares about the Mermillion that has been posing as him, actually. Because if it was for Baprasad, then why would she pour...
Yeah, right? That doesn't make sense.
She maybe has an emotional connection to the djinn, to the... whatever that is.
Interesting.
I don't
So they're
think...
trying to trap Jin.
Or she knows that her djinn friend has been used and abused
Right.
by Damezo.
She's pining for her long lost friend or whatever.
Who made a serious heel turn.
I mean,
I feel like I shouldn't bring it up to her during
no, not yet. How would we know?
Well, even just about that tree got a lot more wine than the other ones. What's up with that gin? Like, I mean, even from that perspective, it's like, seems personal.
Ooh, be culturally insensitive. Go up and be culturally insensitive. Why are you pouring wine in a tree?
Do you want Ma'ak to do that? I could do that. That'd be fun.
If you saw it, or could accept.
I missed my opportunity. I should have been reading her mind, but that's kind of rude. Ma'ak kind of doesn't do that.
Why are you so fond of the frond?
The palm frond.
I mean, do we want to use her to get Bap, what's his actual name? Shazar. Do we ultimately want, I mean, Ma'ak wants to, he wants revenge, sure, but like also wants to free him, or at least get that thing out of his eye. Because at least then he has a choice. He hasn't had one till then.
Do we think that Shazar didn't have a choice when he sold us out?
That's what we learned from that myth Aaron just told us. That they used.
Oh yeah, he was controlled with that. Oh, gotcha.
So we can't ever trust that he did anything of his own volition. He was like a djinn, like some kind of 3 wishes-y thing or whatever. I don't know. But I mean, whatever. I mean, still, even being controlled, he could have handled that better. But it's more. The other thing is, if we can learn the secrets of House Ianto, we can leverage them with the filers, because that's what they want to know. And that's why they basically let us live, I think, to like discover these secrets.
They can't hear our meta concert, right? Because they had those like observing stones that we were carrying.
They shouldn't be able
They
to.
can't.
Yeah, they should only be able to hear your actual conversation.
Right. They shouldn't be able to hear a medical concert unless somehow some powerful psychic is projecting his consciousness into your gem, and then then you're within his area of effect or whatever.
Right. Let us not speak aloud about this.
Agreed. Most of this stuff, I think, we keep to meta concert. I mean, Mark prefers to speak in meta concert. He doesn't like your stupid comment.
Yeah. Well, I would really love to hear what any other race, like how they would attempt to speak Thrycreen.
Yeah. Right? But I don't know. I mean, it's an opportunity, but I think like the real threat of all of these people, even Damezo, I think the real threat is that elf. Whoever he really is,
Susan,
is worth discovering.
Yeah.
I think, just given his, casual knowledge of Yanti culture, I feel like he probably is a Yanti in disguise. But the only thing that would give me
especially
pause,
if he's helping shepherd Damezo into his.
Right. The only thing that seemed elf-like about him was that longing gaze he gave the sunset. Like he wanted to get out there and run. Like that seemed very elf-like. Otherwise, it was. He hasn't been. I mean, he hasn't tried to sell us any junk. I don't know. I'm trying not to be racist, but that's basically like. He's not very elf-like to me.
Wait, was he when you said when he was longing for the sunset? Was he longing to run, or was he longing for the sun?
Well, he's not a djinn, right? Well, maybe he is. I hope he's not. We're in it for a real fight if he's a djinn. But, I mean, even a Yanti, they were formidable, remember? And he's probably, like... They sent him here because he's no slouch, right? Yeah. Like, he's here to do an important job for the Yanti. Right now, it's reconnecting their broken business, right? If it can be... reestablished, which we know it shouldn't be, but he doesn't know that yet.
Remember, he was and he was gazing out across the eastern landscape towards the setting sun. Wait, no, sorry.
That could mean a great many things.
Reverse that. Fucking reverse that. That was morning.
West, but, yeah, sure.
It was morning, so he was looking out towards the east, towards the rising sun. Because it was early in the day when you arrived, and it was still early. It was still early in the day when because you set off pretty early. I mean, and you've been here all day long, as far as I recall. And so he was definitely looking off towards at least the morning sun, towards the east.
Anyway, there's a lot about that guy that doesn't make sense. And also the fact that he's this uncrackable psionic force. Like, I can't get near his mind or anyone who's under his protection.
He's got
like,
that
weird.
still trap. So he must have some kind of like that's the other thing that I think.
One of those eyes on it.
Yeah.
One of those what?
The observing stones.
One of those eyes.
Maybe. might be worth it.
Yeah.
We do it without him.
Oh, you mean one of the ones that the
Veiled Alliance,
the Veiled Alliance put on you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now they're watching a bunch of us eat very silently and slowly.
Going like, what are these fuckers saying?
Like, and don't forget to cut your meat.
Yeah. What the fuck are they doing? They're just sitting there silent. God damn it! This isn't what we sent them for.
Did we give Crowcus the green light to hire those people, or could you get your information from them, Crowcus free, Ma'ak? Do you need them long term?
I mean, we probably don't need them super long, but it would be nice to have them for at least an hour to have a real conversation with them.
And there was no time before.
I mean, and it's not to say that they might not be viable. They're formidable, and the other thing is, oh god, Ma'ak had some other idea. I can't remember what it was now. Something that he was like, there was a reason why the stone tapper guys, or sappers or whatever you call that, were like super valuable too. And it wasn't just because of the, it wasn't just.
Are you talking about the people who are the dwarves and
dwarves
others, crafters who are
orbs.
the orbs? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they knew about the operation and they knew the source of the materials?
Yeah, and they would also have known the foreman, and in theory, they might have also seen some of the foreign orbs come in, right?
Yeah.
The other ones that were collected that they didn't make here, like the one that we got from, your master, Iban.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That had a weird fucking shadow baby in it, or whatever that was about, right? There are probably other ones like that, right? For however that, we were fucking doing that. That's not happening here, probably.
Those guys, but the Yanti lady? You want the Yanti lady?
Yeah, because she knows about the... Well, okay, she's valuable for two reasons. One, she has first-hand knowledge about, like, the Yanti and their ways and what they might do next, right? To find us, stuff like that. But also, like, she's clearly on the outs with them. Like, they sent her here to die, right? So like, she has every reason to, like, hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? At least now. So, like, she has every reason to at least temporarily ride it out with us. Otherwise, she's on her own. And, like, yeah, that's a nice sword, but, like, fucking good luck. That's not going to suddenly turn the tides for you if the entire Yanti people are after you. She may... I mean, why she is on the outs is worth discovering, right? She may have just failed at some mission, that she was otherwise really intent on succeeding at. In which case, I mean, we don't think she's good, but she's definitely connected, right? And at least for now, she's also a poison taster, right?
Sure.
Should they be like, hey, gladiators, here's your reward? It's like, well, give it to her. Like, she can eat it at least and not die. There's that too.
Well, if they were to be brought on, I imagine that would have had to be done before dinner too.
Probably. Though I imagine Crocus isn't much for negotiation. Just, hey, do you want this job or not?
No, you'd just be like, oh, brothers, fight with us in the games. Quick little whatever.
Or Desi can make a real offer, right? Like a negotiated one. I mean, Metaconcert would be better. That way, Damezo and his people don't hear the deal. But I don't know if they would trust us enough to join Metaconcert. And Ma'ak has made it his policy to not reveal it to anybody that he can do this, to anyone who doesn't trust.
No, I think it's better to keep it outward, like Crowcus style, whether or not it's Crowcus yelling it.
Okay.
It could be Crowcus doing it because Crowcus acts on his own and wanted more fighter brothers or whatever, as long as he's like unleashed to do so with our consent.
I say go for it, and that way, Damezo fucking hears it too, right? So
Right.
I think we would probably wrap up soon.
Yeah. Because
I just want to make sure that if that was our plan, that we state it as such and execute it before anything is parted with.
Ma'ak would vote to do it. I think there's a lot more value to bringing them into our circle, at least temporarily. And maybe they do become clutchmates. Good for them. If not, then, at least for the time being, they've gained security and we gain knowledge. That's really what
and as far as the world is concerned, we gain more fighters to enter into the games. Mm-hmm. Because our stable of fighters is small and we're looking to expand the house.
It all makes sense. It all makes total sense what we would do it. It seems normal, too. Right. So there's that.
Because it is, as far right now, we just have Craucus and the beetle lady. What's her name?
Right. I mean...
Hoxa.
Hoxa.
I mean, and in theory, you might wonder, hey, does Ma'ak fight too? Maybe he does, but, you know. But you guys are definitely you guys look like gladiators.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, you'd be a draw too, Geza.
I'm the man behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine Geza, knowing the Aarakocra he grew up with, would probably not want to stay as far away from the gladiator ring as he could.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a 0% chance Geza joining a gladiatory.
Okay, so you guys have been in Meta Concert for quite a while now. The festivities and the banquet has been moving more and more forward. After about an hour or so, dinner is served, platters come around, you can partake of all of the succulent delicacies.
Does Craucus have an opportunity to jovially invite them into the ranks? That's what I was getting at.
Wait, who's them?
The pit fighters that he was just with.
Oh, the gladiators.
His brothers in blood.
Invite them into what ranks?
Into House Dorada for the upcoming games on a provisional basis.
What in the sense of he's going to ask Damezo that he can
not ask Damezo. They're free now, so now they're free to want to fight for a house of free fighters.
Okay, so sure.
With the understanding, no, there is no understanding. They'll have to get the subtext themselves, because Craucus isn't going to deliver it.
No, he's just going to invite them to join a house of free fighters.
But if they're smart, they'll know that that's a good offer.
Yeah,
it's a good offer if they want to continue to fight for a living,
or just breathe till tomorrow. That'd be nice.
That too.
Yeah.
That too.
Give me just a second.
That's subtextual. But if they
that's the main thrust of that subtext is you will live till tomorrow.
Okay,
well, especially for the ones that were expressing a doubt in that happening.
Right.
Safety in numbers.
Okay. I am going to roll a persuasion check.
Oh, great.
For Craucus. Now I'm going to give him. I am going to give him advantage since they fought together and won together.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And they wouldn't have won without him. He's their MVP.
He's also got a pretty good perform, doesn't he?
Yeah. No. I mean,
No, he does perform. Yeah.
Yeah, but performance is he's trying to persuade these people. He's not trying to perform. Because he does have a +1 to perform, but even if he used perform,
about the games is all bravado. It's like thrusting and flexing and talking about glory and shit like that.
Yeah,
that's how Joseph talks. Anyway,
no, you ask Craucus afterwards, he's like, "I do not think I was able to convince any of them. They seem like they want to go about their own way."
That's fine. That's their choice if that's what they think.
They are weak. They do not want to fight another day. Like me. Like Craucus. They want to scurry off like little Batrog into desert.
Then we should try to get an opportunity to talk to them before they leave.
Yeah, I would say that you need to talk to them sooner than later because, the Faro fruit presentation is getting ready to happen. So I'm gonna give you one last chance to try to reconnoiter with these individuals before I do the cliffhanger.
It makes sense for Desi to do the offer, and you also are probably the most charismatic. Do you want to still go for it, or because you kind of don't care, so it won't be a great sell, but it's sort of maybe you want a job. We got one. I mean, if anything, I would say offer them employment through the High Sun Festival. After that, we can part ways, no problem. But like that's a job, to basically protect House Dorada as fucking off-duty gladiators, and then fight for us in the ring, and you get, your prize money and all that good stuff too.
Because you just want to save them, that's it? Like, if it's just
I want what they know. I want what they know. I want to know about the Yanti. I want to know about the Obsidian deal. I want to know about House Ianto's inner workings.
Okay, so you want to use this moment to try to employ them, not to actually just directly ask these questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, employment gives us the opportunity to ask them at our leisure, and in theory, buys us a window of time where Damezo isn't going to assassinate them before we get the chance to do it. That's really all we're doing here.
If they said no to Crocus, what makes you think they're going to say yes to me?
I don't know if they said no.
Would you rather use this opportunity to just directly ask them what you want to know?
Crocus is a big, abrasive lug,
If they would tell you, sure, that'd be much better. I don't know why they would tell us without some incentive.
The incentive here for them even joining us is if they think they're going to die and that they could be better in a clutch. But that was the thinking. If they don't agree, then that's their prerogative.
I mean, in worst case, Monk will go fucking dig out that smooth stone he spotted and do his psychometry and figure out the things that way. It'd just be way easier to fucking ask the dwarves who've been doing it for the last year.
Yeah, I mean, Crocus said to me, they still expect me to make big diversions so they can escape through little passages below.
But we're not doing that, Crocus. Agreed?
I can smash ground and open up passage. I can do whatever. I will smash. But I will smash what needs to be smashed.
Not yet. We'll let you know.
Hold up.
Good old reliable.
Yeah, I'll go find them and try to recruit them.
Okay. So go ahead and give me your whichever one. Persuasion, deception are probably the two better of the choices.
We're gonna do some deception.
Okay.
That's you can trust me. Totally trust me.
Yeah. I totally want you to live.
I care.
I care about you so much. I want you to live in everything.
She was super persuasive.
That's the thing. That's not trustworthy in Athas. That doesn't make sense. What makes sense is you're valuable and yeah. I mean, this seems to be like what gladiators fucking do. They get a couple good fights in, they make a name for themselves, and then some rich asshole goes, "Be my bodyguard." So I can say that such and such who beat the Brexit and the whatever fight is him, right? This dude. That's, that makes sense. Like, we're going to get some renowned gladiators to come fight for us. We'll pay you really well, whatever. It just, I don't know. I don't see why they would say no, especially if they fucking think they're...
Especially if they think that they're going to die and they think they need to tunnel out immediately.
Exactly. When they could walk out next to us, right? What are they? Damezo has to kill all of us to kill them.
If they're that dense, then we don't want to talk to them anyway. So
no, I don't think Crocus communicated the nuance of that when he made his pitch. But anyway, whatever. Desi can do it or not. It's just I think the dwarves know a lot that is worth knowing, and I wouldn't mind interrogating the Yanti either.
So then...
Oh, she rolled a 14. I don't know if you saw.
A 14. Okay. I'm going to say that they are skeptical, but willing to go along with your plan if it is their best chance for surviving the night.
Well,
They
the
do once again bring up the notion of trying to escape through the tunnels. They're like, we know where they are. Like, we could get out into the desert, but
we don't need to escape, and then we would be fugitives.
Yeah. So, like, here's the thing: if the idea of us hiring them suddenly turns Damezo off to us, and he's like, "All right, well, then none of them are leaving our facility. Then we're going to use those fucking tunnels."
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
That's our backup plan.
Yeah.
The first plan is to walk out the front door tomorrow.
Yeah, with a bag of Damezo's money in our pouch for being paid for this fucking job. Right? You know.
They say, okay. They'll say, we'll trust you, but they're still obviously weary that Damezo wants them dead tonight.
They should be weary.
So,
real concern.
Okay, but they're going to go along with your plan. Now, having said that, we're going to jump forward just slightly to the end of the feasting, to this point where because as I was saying, the Faro fruit was obviously getting ready to be brought out. Faro fruit comes out. There's a whole presentation ceremony. I'm not going to get into it, but there is this tense moment where the drums start to be played here, and there are dancers and there's this whole ceremony, and then everything gets quiet, and Damezo holds the Faro fruit up, and he presents it to the group. He says, "The first Faro fruit of the year. The honor of the first bite, I must say, cannot go to myself. It has to go to. It has to go to my dear, dear father.
I knew that was going to happen.
For whom none of the fortune of House Ianto could be attributed without your great guidance throughout the years." And he passes it off, and that is where we will call scene.
Excellent. Nice. Couldn't have happened to a nicer psychopath.
At this point, the fruit is so old that it's become like a fruit roll-up. It's now like leather.
Well, it's like it looks like a giant yellow fig that has been completely saturated in honey and covered in nuts. Like it is already like dehydrated. What's that?
Raising. Covered in nuts.
A big sticky bag of wrinkled flesh.
Yeah.
Covered in elf honey and sticky
it
nuts.
is large. I mean, it's dehydrated, but it is yellow because remember I said that it had sort of the color of the flesh was like the color of like a mango. And it had a bit of a mango flavor to it when you tasted it. It's intensely sweet. But now that it has been, processed the way that Faro fruit typically is, it's been drenched in cank nectar and saturated in it.
What the hell is cank nectar?
Honey. It's in honey.
It's honey, but imagine canks.
Green honey though.
Canks are like the beetles from Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
That you ride. They're not quite as big as that, but they're like the size of a horse. But
they're like big buffalo beetles.
Yeah, buffalo beetles, and then canks produce this nectar, and then cank nectar is what broy is made out of, and broy is basically the beer of Athas. So like there are different qualities of kank nectar. There's like the pure kank nectar, which is like maple syrup or honey. And then it gets distilled into like a mead type drink, which is broy. There's lots of different applications of kank nectar. So, so next time, Strabo Ianto shall partake of the first tasting of the Faro fruit.
How long does your poison take, Desi? An hour?
Yeah, it's like an hour. Well, is it? Yeah, I think it's an hour set-in time.
So next time is January 8th, since the next 2 weekends are Christmas Day and New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So, I mean, personally, I'm fine on New Year's Day, but yeah, it's up to you guys. When you want to recommence.
I'm good with New Year's Day or the 8th. Either way, I'll be around.
Yeah.
We could probably make it work too, but whatever you guys have to.
Yeah, we'll talk, and because I gotta try to figure out everything else. At any rate, this doesn't make for good Twitch. So once again, thanks for coming back, enduring with us. Those who show up when we reconvene, either in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Hopefully we have everything a little more streamlined. We're back to usual, and then we're off to the races for the rest of 2023. So this is our last show of 2022. So Happy New Year, Happy Christmas, Kwanzaa, and all of the fucking rest, Hanukkah, and so on and so forth to everybody who listens. And whatever other dark pagan festivities that you partake of.
Yule. we partake of Yule in my house. But
take that Yule log and burn it brightly.
Jenny made a really nice Yule log this year, actually.
Yeah. So we'll see you on the other side. Hopefully it's not like I don't know. It's fucking world. At any rate. Okay. So
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. All right. Okay, we're no longer streaming. And
awesome.
We'll just that was a good little recap and a good setup for next time. So I am if you guys it's up to you guys. If you're fine just like being a four-person game for a while, there is one other person who's been interested in playing the game who might.
Is it your assistant's?
It's the partner of one of the people who works for my rep, Taylor, and they were interested in being a member of the Verdant Revival.
I don't know if you can hear me. My connection is so shit. I'm gonna go.
All right. Okay, good night.
Yeah. Okay, good night.
Good night.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
You think? What's this person's name? Sorry.
Taylor. I had pitched the idea of being a member of the Verdant Revival, and they were like super into that idea.
Okay. You think they could help with the tech, or even better, the social media stuff for the game?
I would like to have that conversation because I do not know.
I am not against more guests coming in. One of the things that actually occurred to me, it reminded me actually of the way the Laugh-Finder guys did it, because they basically had like a doppelganger character that the guest would play every time, right?
Yeah.
So switch. But in theory, Craucus, the half-giant, copies new personalities when he meets somebody new. In theory, you could have the guest play Craucus, and then Craucus is the one whose personality changes. A thought.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you have a new player, I have nothing against that at all. I just want to be like, what else do they bring to the table?
Yeah.
So, in theory, that's where we're hurting the most. So I'd love someone who like is good at that to like take it over. That's all.
Yeah. So I mean, like, yeah, I can kind of do some talking and find out because we do need somebody to pick up some slack here and there.
Are we without doing it the way we just did it, are we able to go to Twitch and YouTube simultaneously, or that was only through the other?
I have to look into that. I was not able to get into the details of how that functions. Right. So I got to figure that out. Yeah.
Can we use what you record and put it on YouTube, at least for the time being, though?
Yeah, I mean, like, theoretically, like, I mean,
I can just go